on the list, John, but.
Both Johns, probably.
Either or.
We're on.
Matter?
Yeah, right.
You should have it.
One minute.
Good.
All right, I have 6 o'clock. Let's call the meeting to order. Mr. Cerner, will you lead us in the pledge and the salute?
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I salute
The
the flag
flag of the state of New Mexico is the symbol of perfect friendships among united cultures.
Thank you. Item 1D, approval of tonight's agenda.
I move to approve tonight's agenda with the flexibility to move items.
Move items around. Thank you.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve tonight's agenda. Allow me to move some agenda items around. So I know some people need to leave, so we're going to jump around a little bit on the agenda. So any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Approval of the April 15th, 2025 regular board meeting minutes.
Move to approve April 15th, 2025 regular board meeting minutes. Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed? Motion carries. Item 2, public comment. Anybody who have public comment? Go ahead, Mike. And nobody online for public comment. All right, we're gonna move up to the recognitions next, and then we'll get to the presentation after a couple other agenda items, but recognitions. So Mr. Patterson, Excellence in Student Achievement Award.
Yes, sir. Tonight's an exciting night. We've actually got quite a few recognitions. It's been a long day. So
Yes, it has.
recognitions. We're not taking any resignations, just recognitions. In fact, I told one they're sticking around for a while. What we have first is we have Excellence in Student Achievement Award that the board actually nominated and voted on. And so I'd like to bring up Coach Brittany LeMay. Pretty much everybody knows Brittany wears many hats and coaches, and she just did her administrative internship and has got that to celebrate too, which means she gets to wear more hats. So there's a lot of things that she's done for us, and we're proud that she's part of our team. So.
Yay, congratulations.
And got her master's.
Did everybody hear that?
And got her master's.
So the next one on there, I'll go ahead and bring her up, is Miss Sarah Birch. She thinks she's here to present student council stuff, but her last day of school was it's this Friday, but
Right.
yeah, when she graduates. But she has come every board meeting, save one or two because of work. She's presented to the board, kept us up to date on the student council stuff. So, last year we started the Spirit of the Grizzly Award. And so I'd like to recognize her for getting her time to come up here and get in trouble with a couple of bosses being here. And I think she's got to hurry back to work when we get done here in just a second. So recognize her with the Spirit of the Grizzly Award.
Yay!
Maybe.
Thank you.
So they'll make
Thank
sure I
you.
pass them up. Staying with the Spirit of the Grizzly, this year, we had a gentleman that brought Spirit back. We've been joking around about it for probably 4 years since I started here about, we ought to do a drum line. And we kind of joked around about it for several years. This year, it kind of came to fruition and it's grown and looking at ways to make it stronger and bigger as we move forward, and we've even had conversations with the young kids that are involved in it right now. Maybe one of these days we'll have a band back here again and do something along those lines. So I'd like to bring up Mr. Archer.
Yay!
Hard work with the drum line.
Yep.
Congrats.
Thank you, Mr. Archer.
Thank you.
And then the next three kind of have the same story, a little twist here and there. We started our pack. It's taken us several years to get our pack going. We started our pack last year. This year, about late September, early October, it really took on what pack is supposed to be. And we even had a great discussion this other day about pack means, parent, anyway, committee, parent advisory committee. And we talked about, is that really what we want to name it? Because we really want to open up where we have people from the community that are here. And it's open up to anybody. We just call it PAC. But we had three that really took leadership and took on a mission of bringing Career Day here, which was a huge success. We have other schools that want to come to it next year. When we do it, we'll debate if we allow that or not. But sparked some good conversation. And the first one we recognized, not only did he was he involved in that, he also was involved in our Ag Day and brings the trailer that with the water flows and the things like that, which I always enjoyed when I did geology class. We had some fun stories. So Fernando, would you come up? And these are slightly different. These are the heart of Grizzly, kind of going above and beyond and doing such a thing. So, and he was at the senior awards ceremony passing out things last night. So,
Thank you, I appreciate it.
yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And then other gentlemen really took the ball and ran with the career day and kept us very organized and focused even from early on, and brought some ideas and different perspectives to it. He's been involved in everything. We joked about making him president, and hopefully it's not a joke, but we can figure that out when we go back to life. We do all those things, but he's been very involved. He comes to a lot of our activities. So other heart of the Grizzlies, Troy.
Thank you.
Troy.
All right, okay.
Yeah, you gotta flip it around.
Yeah, flip it around.
Angela was saying that.
Yeah. Cute.
Oh,
Thank you.
and then, last but not least, the one that probably helped bring those two to the table, which we appreciate, and did a lot of extra, helping with the brochures, helping with all things. She serves on our board anyway, but these were things that she did above and beyond. All of them were involved in our teacher recognition week. I didn't mention that, and so just did a lot of things in the space and more. Somebody else is gonna do this.
Oh, I can't do both.
Thank you. And then this Mr. Hinsel, I think Ms. Rowland's going to present the last one.
Okay.
So we are losing one of our good teachers in high school. She is retiring after 20 plus years of teaching. She is going to spend some time with her grandchildren. Ms. LeMay is not happy that she's leaving us. Mr. Patterson also let her know that she's probably going to be subbing for us a
We
lot.
signed her up for 4 days a week, subbing next year.
Right.
So,
He said 4 days a week, and I said, I take it all back.
So, Ms. Shivers, this is what we've done for everybody.
Oh.
We had to work on getting a picture of you because we didn't have one. And the one Miss Barella tried to take outside when we did the
Thank goodness, that was
track send off. Not good.
right after we were outside of the whole parade thing, and she goes, "Can I take a picture?"
Yes.
No.
we just had the paparazzi after.
So we had Miss Gallagher send us one, but when we sent it, it was not what we were looking for, so we found a different
Yay.
one.
Thank you,
I
thank
just
you.
want to tell you all how fun it's been. I did teach in Tier C, but this was home from the very beginning, and I love teaching here, and it's been a lot of fun, and I probably will show up around, but thank you all very much.
I don't think she's going to give us the 4 days a week, though.
I don't-
That was not a very nice look she gave me. So she will be greatly missed.
Thank you all so much.
Yes, you will. Thank
you.
you. And you all are more than welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting, but I understand if you would rather not, but you are welcome to. We do have the attorneys online, so we'd like to jump now to 8B and 8C on the action items. In consideration of the resolutions, the proposed general obligation bonds, so.
She's on.
Good evening. Thank you for doing this and switching the agenda. And I apologize for the mask, but I recently had some oral work done and I don't want to scare anyone, so I think the mask is a better way to go.
Oh,
But
not a problem.
Good evening, Mr. President, board members, superintendent. It's always a pleasure to be in front of you. And we do have a resolution for the upcoming election that we're hoping you will consider and approve this evening. And I'm certainly happy to answer any questions that you might have. Essentially, as you all know, this is that year again, that time of year. It's the regular local election, which will be taking place on November 4th of 2025. What you've got before you is this resolution that is proposing a bond question that will go out to your voters if you all approve it. And I know you've spoken with Kaylee over at RBC, your municipal advisors.
Yes.
And so she's sort of given you all the financial nuts and bolts, and I'm here to hopefully give you the legal nuts and bolts that you might need for consideration of this resolution. You'll see that the general school bond question is for $2.5 million. And what we have included in that general bond question are all the purposes that under New Mexico law you can use this for, if in fact the voters approve it. And it is all capital kind of matters, things that are actually tangible and sort of those that can be amortized or last a lot longer, if you will. Things like construction, things like teacher housing, if that's where you wanted to go, remodeling, if your roof needs fixing. It's also for buying computers for student use, not for administrator use, but for student use. It's if you're needing to buy the additional grounds for some reason. But again, these are the purposes that are allowed by the statute. And so it gives you a good deal of leeway, and that's why we drafted this way, so that you will have leeway. Because none of us has a crystal ball, and we don't know what exactly your school district is going to need. You probably have a lot of ideas right now, but, you know, with tariffs and changes, the way they are happening every day, costs, we just want you to be able to do whatever you need to do when you need to do it. And so again, as I said, this is pretty broad, but we think it gives you all the options that you need. It's better than just saying, oh, we're going to build a pre-K building, or, oh, we're going to replace this HVAC system in the gym. Because, you know, by the time you sell the bonds, you might find that you don't need that HVAC system. You actually need to build a new middle school. So in any event, that's what this does. And I'll mention the other resolution that's before you. And let me just pull it up on my screen so I'm not speaking out of turn here. But the other resolution is basically one where the board is stating what its intent with regard to maintaining the tax rate is. And in there, it lists a $5.34 mill levy rate for the debt service. Now, this is just simply what the board intends, because of course the board doesn't set the tax rate. This is just letting the voters know that this is what you intend it to stay at for the tax year 2025. And I'm hoping that Kaylee went over that with you as well. You know, we don't want anyone to get scared. We're not trying to alarm the voters. And again, it's just letting the world know that this is where you would like the tax rate to be maintained. So those are the two resolutions in the before you tonight in a nutshell. And again, I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Any questions for Ms. Ives?
No, I looked at everything.
You're off the hook. We don't have any questions.
You all make it so easy. And if I could just add one little comment. I got to tell you that the superintendent and the staff and of course the board are just so delightful to work with, and always helpful and willing to cooperate. And I will tell you, it just makes our lives easier, and I think it really benefits the school district. So thank you all very, very much.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, so what's the pleasure on items? Let's do them separate. 8B, I mean.
And Mr. President, if I might, I
Yes,
just want to
ma'am.
make sure that these are two separate action items.
Correct.
So we want to make sure that the record is clear that they are both being considered individually and hopefully approved individually as well. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
I move to approve action item, excuse me, action item 8B.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve action item 8B, which is the consideration and approval of a resolution proposing general obligation bond ballot question and other matters relating thereto. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Item 8C,
I move to approve item 8C, the consideration of approval of a resolution proposing an intent to maintain their levy rate.
Second.
it's been moved and double seconded. To approve item 8C, consideration and approval of the resolution process proposing on intent to maintain the mill levy rate. Any further discussion on that item? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Ms. Hives. Appreciate it.
I think she's still talking.
I think I was on mute, but
Yes,
thank
you
you
were.
all very much. Sorry,
That's okay.
again, I'm a little discombobulated here, but thank you all very much. I appreciate it. Have a great evening and a good rest of the board meeting.
Thank you. You
Take
too.
care. Bye-bye.
All right. Moving on to item number 3, presentations. We have Ms. Teresa Johnson here.
Good evening, Mr. President, board members, superintendent. Thank you for allowing me to speak. Let me first introduce myself and tell you why I'm here, and then I'll tell you what I want to do. My name is Teresa Johnson. I'm from Texas. My husband Jess is here. I've been a nurse since 1989. When COVID started, I began travel nursing. I came here to came to Roswell Correctional Center as a travel nurse. They offered me the position as the health services administrator. I called my husband and said, let's move to New Mexico. So we did that. We bought a house in Capitan and we moved to New Mexico in October. Not knowing exactly the reason why I came, I knew that there was a bigger reason for me to be here, but my husband supported me and here we are. With that said, in 1989, my first job as a nurse out of nursing school was at the Texas Department of Criminal Justice. I was a prison nurse. Throughout my 36-year career, I've continued being a prison nurse in multiple prisons. During COVID, I wrote policy and traveled to every prison in the state of Maryland to give COVID vaccines. Most recently, I was in South Dakota at the prison, a maximum security death row prison. So I've probably spent more time in prison than a lot of inmates, you know. With that said, I have recognized through the years that recidivism is a very big problem. That being that most inmates get out of prison and return within 3 years. As a matter of fact, when I got here, I began to study, and the recidivism rate in New Mexico is at 40%, which is substantially higher than the national average of 27%. 35 plus years experience has led me to believe that there has to be a better way. Taxpayers spend billions upon billions of dollars for recidivism across the nation. One program alone that New Mexico taxpayers spend money on is called the RDAP program in prison. The state of New Mexico spends $339.3 million on a program that's called Residential Drug Abuse Program. That's the RDAP. Some inmates are sentenced to that, and some inmates take that if they feel they have a drug abuse program. Something that's lacking is there's no follow-up on that. So I've put a lot of thought into that and a lot of prayer into that. This is what I think. I think this little building right behind y'all, the New Horizons building, would be the perfect building for what I'm calling a pilot program, a re-entry for disadvantaged citizens and minorities. I've already filed and received my 501c3 status. So my company would be called New Mexico Real Inc., standing for Reducing Recidivism Through Education, Awareness, and Lawfulness. Now, what's the biggest issue that I see? It's the fact that I'm right next to a school. That's why I'm here to talk to y'all, because again, I've obtained my 501c3 status. I can go anywhere. I just happened to see that this little old hospital was for sale at a price that I could buy it. And I looked at it, and I think that there's a lot of issues with it, but I think that we can get that done. Part of what we would do through this program of returning citizens, many of these would have the skills to help repair that. And the difference in this program and all the other programs that are out there, which there are 17 in the state of New Mexico, when a returning citizen finishes their sentence, finishes their time, and they start to come back into society, they can go to 17 different places in New Mexico. They're all in the big cities, Albuquerque, Farmington, Las Cruces, all cities that have major drug issues. And they go back to what they know, their old friends, their family, the way they grew up. I see this here as a fresh start for them. I'm not saying there's not drug problems here, but what I am saying is this is a fresh start for determined returning citizens. I know I'm still scaring y'all here. What I propose is there would be a committee and there would be a vetting system. At first, we would only start with 3 returning citizens. I would love for a member of the school board to be on my committee, and we would vet which returning citizens we felt were, in fact, worthy and really wanted to get their life right, and we knew that they could excel in our program. And y'all would, hopefully somebody with the school board would want to be on that board or that committee to select these returning citizens. That's a 19-bed facility. I would eventually like to get up to 15 beds, but I would start with 3. That's all I have to start with for my grants. And there's lots of things that we would do. It would be an all-inclusive wraparound, which there is no other in the state, meaning it's a coalition, it's a collaboration between licensed healthcare professionals like myself, licensed counselors, case management, housing, healthcare, counseling, everything right in one facility. Some of it may be telehealth like this. That's just the new thing. Since COVID, that's what's come around. But they could get everything they needed in one place. I've already had several volunteers that have said, I have been a construction supervisor my whole life. I know how to do drywall. Let me come in and teach that. I have someone who wants to teach welding. There are programs out there that we would be interested in. There's a very successful program we call it the dog program, but what they do is they take dogs from the animal shelter, and the inmates have already been trained to train the dogs to be either just family dogs or service dogs. That's something that I'm very interested in. That housing, the way it is, the wing on this side has patios that go right outside. That would be a great program. I understand that there's a humane society here, and that's rewarding for the inmates. It's rewarding for the community to be able to have service dogs that aren't so expensive. And there's so many different programs that I'm interested in, and the community could help me with that. But we would hire people like I think the biggest problem that I see is these are felons, and it's hard for felons to get good jobs. But you know what felons can get? They can get jobs as day work as ranchers. They can get jobs in the oil field. They can get jobs even as truck drivers, depending on what their sentence was. So let's teach them those things so that we give them the tools that they can go out and be successful, because they focus a whole lot on education. Well, that bachelor's and master's degree doesn't do a whole lot of good for those felons. So we're teaching life skills. We're teaching skills that they can actually use to get a job that they can totally change their life. Would I be doing this if I didn't believe in it? No. Has my husband had some thoughts about you're crazy? Yeah, he has. But, and let me just leave you with this. This is something I read that touched me quite a bit. And I'm actually a little embarrassed that I didn't know this. But again, I'm a New Mexican. And I went to the city council meeting last week, and this is the first time I got to see we did the Pledge of Allegiance and then the Pledge to the Flag, and it touched me that the Zia symbol is a symbol of perfect friendship among cultures. That's very touching, and that's kind of what I'm trying to do. But more than that, listen to this. Jacob lied, Moses murdered, Saul hunted down Christians, David had an affair, Peter disowned Jesus. God used every single one of these people to build the kingdom. There are a lot of people that I believe should be in prison for the rest of their lives. I believe they can never be a productive member of society. But I believe there's a lot of people that never had the chance and never had anybody to help them or guide them in the right ways. And I think that I have the experience with the staff that I have and the support of a community that we could make a big difference. As a pilot program in the state of New Mexico, I would love to see this program spread statewide, because it's a problem in every state. So I'm only here because I would like to know that I had the support of the school being neighbors. If I don't, then I can move somewhere else. And I know it's a lot to ask. Know one thing, they are on parole. We can, due to where we are, which I wouldn't allow that anyway, no sex offenders, no major violent crimes. These are basically people that made bad decisions or did something wrong or were into drugs and have got out of it. These are people that really need a helping hand up. Again, if there was a member of the school board on that committee, you would have a say in who those people were. So that's why I'm here, just to tell y'all why I'm here and what I'm thinking about doing. I haven't done it yet, but that's what I would like to do. Do y'all have any questions for me? Any thoughts? Any comments? Superintendent, I see you looking at me. What you got?
Oh, well, you hit on some of it. For me, I'd need a lot more information, just
Okay,
more information than we've done.
right. I would love to meet with you sometime.
But, my concern is closeness to the kids and the students.
Definitely.
We already deal with the detention center being close.
Right.
People walking from there when they get dismissed. That's kind of resolved itself over the last couple of years. And I work with juvenile justice a lot, so I'm definitely a fan of second chances and things like that. My duty is to protect our kids.
Absolutely.
And so, I guess just there would have to be a lot more questions on what's the vetting process look like, where they come from, what happens if they fail, what happens, there's just some other things.
Those are really good questions.
That would go into it. I guess for me, and just.
The good thing about
It's
this,
a lot longer conversation, but,
let me briefly say this. The good thing about this is these are all returning citizens that are on probation. They do one thing wrong, they go right back to prison. Gives us a little bit of, a hand up. They should all, that's again, part of the vetting process, they should all have ankle monitors on and they all have curfews. Just things to think about.
right, and there's some things that can be cut off and moved on.
Absolutely.
That also, but another part of the conversation is that I need to be a part of this, and I was not at the city council meeting on there, so you may already be, but bringing this to a community that's already stretched thin with a police force of one, things like that. There's just a lot of things that I just need things to be considered and talked about and hammered out. I guess is not this way.
No, I agree. Those are very legitimate concerns. As a mother and a grandmother, those are my biggest concerns too. Those are my daughter's biggest concerns when I told them this. That's my husband's biggest concern. The bottom line is these returning citizens, they're coming back. They get out and they go somewhere. They can go right back to where they started, or we can give them a chance to do better and give them the tools they need to be a productive, lawful member of society. And that's all I want to do.
Okay.
Thank y'all for your
Any other
time. I
questions?
appreciate it.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate that.
Item 5, student council report. We lost our student council rep.
Student council report is, we've got baccalaureate tomorrow at 6 and graduation Friday.
Friday at 6.
So that would probably be the two things that she talked about.
Okay.
That's where she's focused right now.
Item 5B, PAC. We also lost our 2/3 of our PAC members.
So we
Yeah.
had our PAC meeting on the 14th at 5:30. We went over the Idea B application. We also want to we've started planning for back to school night. We are aiming for July 31st. That's the last Thursday in July. I think there's a training going on, so the staff will be here. Some things that were brought up to bring to back to school night were games, like we discussed, like the oversized games like Jenga and Connect 4. And then live music was also brought up, so that could be fun. So we're getting started on that. We're going to keep the meetings on the second Wednesday of every month at 5:30. That way we still meet before the board meetings to give you guys updates on what's going on. We will not have a meeting in June, so our next meeting will be July 9th at 5:30 in here. And we had some feedback on Career Day. A lot of the kids wanted more culinary, more like food
Stuff.
which is very interesting.
Free samples.
Yes.
Did
And
we have
actually, did we?
Did, yeah, did
We did not. But it's definitely something that we're going to explore for next year. Eco servants was brought up, and mechanics too. So we're going to look at some different things for next year. This year, of course, was our start.
We've already got names targeted for some of those areas that
Yes.
we think would absolutely come.
Yes. Overall, we had 29 student responses to our survey.
Okay.
We had 9 staff responses, which was about right for the amount of staff that was there. So it wasn't all of them. And then the company surveys, we ended up with 10. We're hoping for a few more, but overall the company responses were very positive. They brought up only having high school kids or just the 10th through 12th grade. Some of them thought we gave too much time. Others, there was like 2 that said it wasn't enough time to visit with the students. So again, we're looking at that to readjust to make it better next time. One of the companies actually did suggest inviting other schools such as Captain and Corona. So we'll see. Oh, and the students want chairs at the booths.
So they don't have to
breaks.
stand?
Yes. So overall, it was positive feedback. We're going to take it all. And then also, Fernando is going, or is going to have the, did? Okay. So he had the students fill out the,
Well, he sent us the information, so they're working.
okay, so they're going to fill out the career path guidance that he has, and it's something that they can start whenever they want, and then it carries on and they can change it throughout time. And it's just like what career path they're interested in, what it goes as far as like colleges and scholarships, and it's a very in-depth program that they can access.
It takes their interest, and these are the jobs that fit that. These are the colleges that have, this is what they can make. This is, it's a pretty good program. And it also, I think like Mr. Moore said, it also help us guide interest for next year as we build for next year's. Okay, so we do have a lot of interest in culinary or mechanics, and we definitely need to bring more of that area.
Yeah. Right. So we're going to use that as like our student survey basically to guide next year's
All right.
survey.
And also to help Ms. Varela when she does her next
Next
steps.
steps.
With her high school.
Mhm.
Okay.
So that's not it.
Any questions for Mrs. Samora? Thank you.
Welcome.
Ms. Barella, principal's report.
So enrollment is 146 total, K through 12. There are 7 pre-K 3 kids, still 2 pre-K 4, 66 in the K5, 24 in the middle school, and 47 at the high school, so a total of 137 K through 12. May 1st was Ag Day. It was a little bit different this year. We only had indoor activities because no access to the field. We still had Fernando come with the soil and water conservation because he used the parking lot, so that was still okay. May 8th through the 10th, Ms. LeMay, Ms. Roper, and Coach Varela took 10 of our students to the state track meet. Brianna Villanueva placed 2nd in the discus, 5th in the shot, and Justin Varela got 2nd in the 300 hurdles and 3rd in the 110 hurdles. There were also kids who broke their personal records at the track meet, at state track meet, so we did good. May 12th, we had the sports banquet at the gym. May 15th was kindergarten graduation, and we had 13 kindergartners graduate. May 19th, we did the awards assembly, which was high school kids, and they were presented for awards for math, science, English. May 19th, the seniors award, and that was hosted by Ms. Varela and all the people who donated for their scholarships, and there was 10 seniors at the awards assembly, and we were talking about how all 10 seniors this year had a plan of what they were going to do after school, whether it was going to college, trade, or another studies, so that was pretty exciting. May 19th through the 21st is finals, so we're doing finals right now. Today was 1st, 2nd, and 3rd hour. Tomorrow will be 4th, 5th, and 6th hour, and then makeups are on the 22nd. Baccalaureate is tomorrow night at 6 o'clock at Catholic Church. Last day of school for the students is May 22nd. 10 graduates will graduate high school on May 23rd at 6 o'clock in the new gym, and then May 26th through the 31st, State FFA will go to the state convention, and Mr. Howard has 2 teams participating in ag sales on Tuesday.
In what?
Ag sales. And so ag sales, they're working on different types of
They have to have a presentation to where they're going to present an item or a product to the people. They already know what product they're presenting, so they've been working on it. The high school team is working like on a fire retardant that they're supposed to be presenting to, like they're the experts on it. And they have all the information. I'm not sure what the middle school is working on. I just know the high school ladies on that team. So they will be doing that at 8 o'clock on Tuesday night.
I never heard of that. Like Shark Tank.
And Hayden is on it, yes. It's, but I don't know what they're working on.
So it's soy foam. Hayden's very excited about this.
Soy foam?
Soy foam. Something about getting an ingredient out of soybeans, I believe,
Uh-huh.
and it's supposed to be more effective in putting fires out and more safer.
Awesome.
And so they have all this stuff where they do, like it's a commercial. They're kind of trying to build it to where like companies will buy their product.
Right.
And so like Home Depot, I can't remember what other ones they're working on.
But it's
Tractor
not supposed to
Supply.
have any of the harsh chemicals like a regular fire.
Right. That's, I've
And-
never
and
heard of
Miss
that.
Howard is
Egg
the one
sales.
who's working with them.
Something new.
So she's excited to bring them in and do it.
Well, that's cool. So do they compete against other schools to how they present? Is that the,
They were trying to get the kids to present. We were supposed to put together a panel, but we just
ran out of time?
For the kids to present, like, so they could practice what they were going to say.
Right.
And there's how many?
I think there's 35 kids who are going.
To state
Desiree
convention?
Daigle is also working on her state office degree, or not state office degree, but working on becoming a state officer.
State officer?
Or running for a state officer, yes.
Who is that again?
Desiree Daigle.
Oh, all right. Awesome. Any questions for Ms. Barilla? Thank you. Mr. Patterson,
I do
Superintendent's
wanna add-
report.
I do want to add one thing before I jump on mine to hers, that we're trying to get set up just so the board's aware. We do have an athlete that's been picked up to participate for EMU Portales' track team in the future. So we're trying to put together kind of a signing day for her. It came really, really late, but we really want to recognize and do a signing day, and we're trying to figure out how to get the coach here so we can do something big to celebrate that. So it may be a week or two in the making, but we're working on it. So,
Good deal.
Green
so Brianna is, so.
for Easter.
It's gonna be a greyhound.
Hey. I'm originally a Greyhound. Good or bad. So, on our report, I'll go kind of quick. You had this that's here, nothing much has changed on this list. I do want to talk a little bit about the phase 2 transition planning meeting we had, because to me, that's our next big interesting hurdle or mess, is when we're in the new building, going to school in the new building, the other buildings where we're going to be doing parking lots, parent drop-off, bus lanes may not be built yet. And so making sure we can get our kids to and from the buildings. Had a great discussion. I think I made them nervous because I think they thought I wanted it all solved today. I was like, no, I just don't want it solved the day after we move into the new building.
Right.
And so we've got some pretty good plans that include some of the work on the bus lane here. They're actually going to do this summer ahead of time so that when we make the transition and we go to build a bus lane, it's just pouring the concrete and getting the bus lane poured. Temporarily, we'll probably have to drop kids off at the back of the building while they tear down Clegg and make our parking lot there. And then our high school students will not have an option where they park and their access to the building. And so on our end, we'll just have to get creative on supervision in those areas, but do have a plan in the start of that conversation. The only other thing that you'll see that's new that'll happen this summer is we'll lose the corner of our playground where the bus lane is, because due to the amount of water coming off the football field and coming off the new building, they have to build a retention pond for when we get our 5-inch rain. That's one drop 5 inches apart once a year. But when we get it all at once. And so it's got to have somewhere to go so it doesn't flood our neighbors or flood anything else, takes care of things. They will build that pond this summer because they will already have the football field draining there by July. And they will fence it. It'll have a temporary fence to get us through construction. And when it's finalized, it'll have all the fences and stuff to code for safety and protection of our students there. And once everything else is built, it's kind of out of sight, out of mind. For a little while, it's going to kind of be an eyesore. But once the building's all complete, it's behind the gym. You don't really know it's there. So it's just until we get there, there's going to be some ugliness. But construction's going good. I walked the CT building today, and they've got walls in place and sheetrock going up and tile going up, and they were getting floors clean so they could start putting down flooring and all that. I was thinking while I was getting ready to talk about that, maybe the June board meeting I could set up, maybe we have a pre-meeting early for anybody that wants to go walk, and we can take some tours, because as you see, the outside walls of this building started up today and they're going up quick. And so there may be some actual things we can maybe take the board through and walk through at that time.
That'd be
So,
great.
You know, and I'm sure I can get somebody from there to stick around till 5 to take us on a tour, or even 4:30.
Do we get to keep our hard hat?
We'll find out. I don't know. I've got 3 in my office. They're growing in my office. I don't know where they're coming from. So, any questions on construction? That's kind of, nothing else is really, the dates have kind of stayed the same. Football field's moving a little faster now. In fact, the hopes is they have the rest of the gravel that's over there in our parking lot for graduation moved from there and being put on the field. They were working hard to get that done. To try to give us as much parking room as we can get for graduation. It's just going to be, that's going to be the heartache at graduation. This parking is going to be a challenge. So, and it is anyway. Even when we had all our parking, we have enough people show up that parking is a challenge. Anyway, just be a little bit more. PAC meeting we've already discussed. Book adoption, we've been waiting for bids on them. We got some of them today. We shipped one of them back to someone that don't have to do better. It was a little bit ridiculous. And so in June, hopefully we'll have that. Well, we need to have it ready for you in June because it's this year's adoption. And then currently what we've had is Ms. Howard wanted Ms. Shiver's position, so she's moving to high school science. So what we have open right now is a middle school science math position. And so we're trying to recruit and still find quality teachers to go in that area. So if you know anybody in that area, send them our way. Any questions on
Questions
that?
for Mr. Patterson?
Well, I mean, the construction, I mean, what about the new gym still? Is it getting torn down? We don't know.
So the best answer I can give you right now, without pushing for a more solid answer, is the way I'm reading the conversation is it doesn't have to necessarily be torn down. We can't use any state money to take care of it or use it. So basically, the shape it's in is the shape it's in. The question I don't have answered yet, as we go to bond, we'll use bond money on it. Because if it's sold, that, you know, that helps some things. Don't have that question answered, but it's one of those things where they want it off of our books from anything that uses state money. Which the question that's still out there is, does that also mean insurance? And that would be the big deciding factor. So.
Because insurance ain't cheap.
Money on a new school, I that answer first. So, just curious. Yeah. So. It's got a lot of heartaches. Fort George had all 4 air conditions running for Thursday's kindergarten graduation. We came in Monday and the motor was burned up on one of them. So we've been working on it to get it ready for, it's the one motor that wasn't replaced and it went out. So he's trying to get it
Of course.
ready for Friday's graduation because of course Friday's going to be the warmest day we've had
Right.
in a while.
Be in the 90s.
But if you've been to our night events, it has been cool. It has been, the air's not blowing so hard that it's blowing things over, which we had that last year. Last year we had to move where we had the projector because it was blowing the projector nearly over. And so George has worked hard on and getting them running and keeping them running, and they're basically brand new units. Everything in them's been replaced. So they're about as new as you can be without going and buying them.
Except for the shell. All right, any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Patterson. Marie, financial report.
Hi, good evening, I guess it is by now. I don't even know what day it is, much less what time it is.
Been a little swamped crunching numbers, have you?
Good evening, Superintendent and Board, and thank you for having us. And so tonight, we're gonna just talk about the budget transfer. What that is we've got the final SEG from the state last month, and there was that slight decrease in that. So that's the budget transfer that's on the agenda tonight. We also have all the POs that were written and all the checks that were written. Are there any questions on those?
Hey, Debbie.
Basic. And then we have your, of course, your financial graphs that show things are moving along like you would expect at this time of year, inching up to the projected budget from last year. Nothing out of the ordinary that I saw. But I will stand for any questions that you might have on anything in the financial reports.
Who is Wesley Walker?
I'm sorry?
The PO number 250534. It was for $63.75.
Leslie Walker.
Look. Look like that.
It was just listed as other charges, so I wasn't.
What page are you on? Sorry. I skipped it.
22. It's the purchase order report.
Let's see, it's not coming up very fast for me to look at it for you, but I'll get it.
Okay.
What was the number again?
250534.
Coming up. It's finally deciding to work. I'll find out what the. Wesley Walker. It looks like it's electrical in the greenhouse,
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
so. that would-
CTE grant is
Yeah.
helping pay for that. They're doing the electrical water, finally got somebody that's doing it. I think part of it's being done, actually, we let the contractors that are doing some of our other work on the construction
Okay.
we're getting the supplies that are gonna do the wiring.
Okay. It just said other charges, so I was not sure what that was. And then the PAC account still has 2,500 in it, but it shouldn't
Okay,
because of the food.
because of the foods, the bank account. We'll get that.
That's all I have.
Maybe there was an anonymous donor that paid for this one. So you get to keep your 20%.
We use the first America Bank card. I just don't want it to seem like I just want it to be right.
Right.
No problem. I get you.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions for Miss Marie? All right, moving on to approval of the consent agenda items. As you notice, there's several. We-
There's one bar, and then the policies that you had 3 readings on, if there haven't been any changes, we figured to put it there so that it didn't have.
Right, but I don't remember where I saw it. No, I thought I read something where we needed to give her authorization for a blanket bar.
I think it's under the action
Yeah, I think it's under the actual,
Oh, is it
I
there?
think it's number H.
it's under number 8.
Oh, okay. I knew I read it somewhere. Okay. All right, so we need a motion to approve the consent agenda item. So the bills paid, the bar, and the several policies that we've gone over for the past 2 months.
I move to approve all of the consent agenda items.
Second?
Second.
All right, we've been moving seconded to approve all the consent agenda items. Which there are several, so we have those on record, right? I don't want to read them all. Any further discussion?
Nope.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed. Motion carries. Moving on to item 7, discussion items.
So the first discussion item is talking about success, previous graduate success stories. It's kind of a recurring theme, is talking about some of our alumni over the last several months. Currently, Incel is working on remarketing education in New Mexico because everything that you see on the news is not always positive. And so they're trying to build for the Incel conference that's coming up in July, pamphlets, things like that, where they recognize alumni that's graduated from your school district, that's done big things or unique things or something like that. One of the names that popped in mind because the day this came out, she got sworn in, was Lori Gibson becoming a judge. Somebody's already referred her. Somebody from out in the world put her name on the list. And so don't know that we need a great discussion here, but I would entertain some names and some information of somebody you think from this area. I mean, you've got, we've got a trainer that works for the Diamondbacks that graduated from here. You've got engineers from here. You've got lawyers from here. I think somebody told me that we have a doctor or a PA from here. I don't know. I mean, I think I know who they are, but I don't know that I knew they were a doctor. And so, and so I threw it on here. If there's anybody the board would like for me to recommend, I need a little word so that they can kind of, when they graduated, it wouldn't hurt finding some that are a little bit more current, that have been out of school a few years. To me, we can almost recognize anybody that's ever graduated that's got any kind of steady job that's providing for their family, because to me, that's a success story.
Right.
If you're out being a productive member of society, and you're taking care of your families, and you're taking care of your business, to me, that should be our biggest goal, regardless of what the career is. But I throw that out there, and I mean, I know a small pocket, and I know several names that have been successful. Some were recognized today, and so, so I kind of throw it out there for discussion. If there's anybody y'all think of and want to shoot me a name, they kind of want it by end of next week, so they can do that. Lonnie's actually heading up the charge, and like I said, we already got Lori Gibson is one of the ones that's going to names that have been out there, and I'm just trying to rebrand, because there's a lot of good things going on in Mexico education that's not being heard. We have 10 kids graduating that we were talking about last night. When you listen to where they're going and what they're doing, all 10 are going to do something somewhere. They have a plan, they know where they're going. It's all furthering their education or their training in some shape, form, or fashion. And that's how that's not a win. I don't know what else is. So that's awesome for our kids.
Okay. How about next week, huh?
Yes. You got somebody that just really pops to mind, shoot me an email.
What about a retired state highway individual?
That serves his community.
I'm not retired, I'm currently employed.
For three little people.
And it is the boy, he's not in charge. I'm not watching.
Yeah, right.
I'm not the boss anymore.
Wife employment? All right.
No, it's three little people.
All right, moving on to item 7B, the presentation of the budget. Is it- Mr. Runyon, you haven't fallen asleep on us, have you?
No.
Okay.
Good evening. I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen. I think everyone should have a copy of the
Yeah.
packet, right?
We did.
Yes.
Okay. I'll share my screen.
Page 140.
I feel like I'm kind of stealing Marie's thunder, so I just want to give her credit where credit's due. Marie worked very hard on this budget. And she's been putting in a lot of late nights and long hours to get this done. And so I don't want to steal all of her thunder and all of her hard work, but her and I talked and we thought it would be best if I present the budget tonight, but we can both be available to answer any questions that anyone has. So, Mr. Board President, Superintendent, members of the board, what we have here is the presentation for the FY26 budget for Carrizozo Municipal Schools. I'm just going to kind of go through our packet at any time. If anyone has any questions or any comments, just feel free to interrupt me. Just a high-level analysis. So we did collaborate with the administration, staff, and parents, and we were able to develop a budget that's aligned with the district's goals. Some things to keep in note is that all teachers and staff will be receiving a mandated 4% raise. Purpose of this for the state is to address increasing health premiums and inflation. Unit value used to determine the school's SEG, it did increase, the unit value did increase, however, the SEG did decrease from about 3.95 million in FY25 to about 3.8 million projected for FY26. That is a decrease of about 112,000. We do have just a couple of things below that are highlighted for the district specifically. We did note that the at-risk indicator resulted in about a 27.55% decrease. Student count, grades 1 through 12, 11.8 decrease. Overall, SEG decrease of about 3.42%. And most of that's attributed to a decrease of enrollment of about 20.25. We'll go through the 910B5, which is the state's way of calling the document that's used to calculate our operational revenue in more detail. And we can look at it line by line, and I'll kind of explain that in a little bit more detail here in a bit. We covered the 4% raises. Other things to note that's built into this budget is medical rates did increase almost 10%. And we do have some other items here. So a lot of this kind of is the same as last year, the multiplier for K-12 days and K-12 plus, which we do not participate in. Some other things to note, minimum wage of $15 an hour for all school employees. The minimum salary for all EAs is $25,000. The state did also increase the minimums for teachers. So level 1 teachers starting at $55,000. Level 2 teachers starting at $65,000, level 3 teachers at $75,000. And then down below, we have the principals, which are tied per statute to the level 3 salary of $75,000. And so just to read about high school principals starting at $123,750, middle school at $108,750, and elementary at $93,750. Overall summary, so the total budget for the district, this is all funds, including cash, is about 8.7 million. Of that is including 1.8 million of cash carryover. The budget for the district is comprised of mainly 3 different types of funds. What we would call our general fund, that's going to be our operational fund, or transportation, food service, athletics. Those are the funds that are typically used to operate the district. In addition to that, we have our special revenue funds. Those are going to be our federal funds. I believe we included some state funds here. You'll see CTE. And then lastly, we have our capital outlay funds, and we did include the debt service in here too. Those are going to be the funds that are allocated and budgeted for capital outlay in terms of maintenance, as well as servicing our debt for any bonds that we sell. And then lastly, we have our activity funds. And so altogether, of our total budget, 70% comprised of those general funds, about 5% special revenue, 23% capital outlay, and then 2% to activity funds. The only thing that I'll mention on the special revenue is at the time that the budget was put together, there's still awards trickling in. I think we just got our idea B on last Friday, maybe. So those continue to come in through now till the end of the year. But for any award that we have not received at the time of putting this budget together, we usually just estimate to receive next year something similar to what we did receive this year, just for budget purposes. Then when we get the actual award, we'll have to go in and kind of make sure that that aligns with the applications that are submitted. Next, I'm just going to kind of go through the, I'm sorry? We'll go through the revenue. So we put this together to kind of show a comparison, current year being FY25 compared to next year, FY26, and kind of show any increases or decreases. So you can see there's some significant decreases. Our SDG, Title I went down, Title II, Title IV, IDEA B, Medicaid, Family Income Index, ESSER funds are now gone. And then in our capital outlay, our bonds, we typically receive the same every year. HB 33, I think we can increase this revenue. But I think the main thing is to point out on here is on the special revenue funds, I think a lot of that's attributed to the decrease in enrollment, but we've also kind of been seeing some cuts, I guess, at the federal level. And so all of those are kind of just compounding, making next year's budget very difficult. And so I should have started with that, but just so we're all on the same page, this has been probably the most challenging budget season going into FY26. And I'll kind of elaborate on that a little bit more, but rest assured, I think that the district has done a really good job preparing for this. And so I think we're in good shape going into next fiscal year. However, we're just going to want to keep an eye on the budget going forward so that we can make sure that we maintain a healthy cash reserve and that we're prepared for any unknown circumstances.
I had a question on the capital funds.
Yes.
The SB9 state match, you have it projected as 0?
Yeah, and that's probably just being more conservative, honestly, than, usually when we get those amounts, the state will provide them, but for purposes of the budget, we put 0 just for the off chance that we don't get funded on that, and we were able to balance the budget without it. But if we do get the award, we'll present it as a bar to the board for approval.
Have we ever not gotten it?
No, but it seems like the state's getting pretty tight, and so I think, we could put it. I mean, it's not, but
I was just curious if there was some writing on the wall that we weren't aware of yet, that we weren't going to get it or something.
I agree that it's more likely that we'll get it. But I think just to be more conservative, we elected to just kind of put 0 for that one.
Right.
Well, I think it looks like I put the same amount for it. There was just no change.
Well, we have 0 for FY.
No, it
Zero's
says
the change.
0.
Yeah.
Zero's the change, but for FY25-26, it's 38,645. Right? Am I looking at that wrong?
No, that's the capital outlay. I'm looking down at
Oh.
SB9 state match.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I apologize.
Yeah.
I was in the wrong place.
So, yeah, if we get that award, we'll definitely have it.
Right.
Next, I have the program cost review. So this is kind of what I was talking about before. What this really is kind of showing the various formulas and everything that's included in what the state uses to calculate our operating revenue on SDG. And so every year, the state gets together the legislative session and they increase multipliers and they take away at-risk funding and all kinds of different things. This is really just to kind of show a comparison year to year as to what we can see dollar-wise, what those results were. On the far left, you'll see there's an actual section. What that really is that's our membership. The input into this document, the input into our SDG formula is student membership. And what they use is our average of our 8120 days of determining what to allocate to us for the next fiscal year. And so you can kind of see on the far left on the actual, the decrease of grades 1 through 12 of about 28.5 units. So the next section in the middle is our program units, and what that is it's taking the input of our membership and then multiplying it or increasing it based off of state statute. We get so many program units for students in grades, 1 through 12, or kindergarten or SPED. There's multiple categories, and then ultimately those program units get multiplied by what the state sets as the unit value. So for FY25 being the current year, the unit value is $6,553.75. For FY26, that unit value is increased to $6,801.35. So about a 3.78% increase in the unit value. Now that unit value then gets multiplied by the program units to actually calculate the dollars that the school receives. And so you can see on the far right in the program dollars, you can see how each one of those lines translates into SEG funding. So just as an example, the 8 students that we had in kindergarten in the current year multiplied by their program units times the unit value was approximately $96,733 in operational revenue. In FY26, we're projecting kindergarten to be 16.25 units or membership, and times the new unit value is 159,000. So projecting an increase from our kindergarten, just as an example, of about 62,418. And you can see the decreases as well. So the decrease in our enrollment in grades 1 through 12, even with the increased unit values, net result is a decrease of about 146,000 to our SEG. Other things that I would just kind of point out is ancillary was a significant decrease of about 73,900. That's based off of our FTEs and our ancillary programs. And the other thing that I've been kind of seeing more and more is the decrease on that school size. I think that was a legislative change, and that resulted in a decrease of about $95,038.
So if our ancillary services decrease, does that mean we decrease payment to Region 9?
Well, the services decreased, the price has increased because of the pay and everything else. But we did get some decreases in Region 9, but overall it still came out above. Now, part of the reason it was higher is because working on getting a full-time nurse, so that caused it to go up a little bit. And there was one of the that was the big one that caused it to go up, because they projected it, and we're trying to do it in this expensive way. They project it as the full-time top of the level nurse. And so it's expensive. And what we're trying to do is have a nurse with a CNA that works on the other 3 days, so that we have a nurse, a medical person here, but we should be able to cut some savings there. They've got somebody in mind. They're just working on the details of what that's going to cost before we agree to it. But that was the biggest reason why we're Region 9 up. They lowered our dues significantly.
Yeah.
$4,000 or $5,000. I mean, they did lower that. Trying to remember what else that. Keep a math coach that keeps the gifted teacher through them.
Right.
The problem is some of our areas went up. We're really to a point, like our FTE for social workers of 0.98. We're almost to a point that we just go hire a social worker, but that FTE can change from year to year depending on who's in district, who's not. And so that goes there. And so.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, and I always make the joke, and you can kind of see it here. They increased the unit value to 6801, but it's kind of like robbing Peter to play Paul. The unit value looks like it went up, but then we get cut on our school size, or we get cut on our at risk, and so I think all of this to say that you can see that we have a decrease in our SEG. But at the same time, we have to build into the budget all of the mandatory increases that we talked about, the 4% raises, the increase in benefits, our risk insurance, everything just costs more. And those are the challenges that we really face, especially with putting together this budget.
Okay.
So going into the expenditure side of things, we were able to balance the budget for FY26 without using cash carryover. I think I can say this is probably the 7th or 8th budget meeting that I've been to. This is the first school I've seen that has not had to use cash carryover going into FY26. Lots of schools are having to tap into their cash carryover going into FY26 and are facing significant challenges to where I think FY27 is a big concern. I think that the district and the administration have done a good job of being fiscally smart and preparing for this with the kind of the reduction or the removal of the ESSER funds. So we built up a cash balance to kind of help us in the situation. However, Marie was able to put together the budget and balance it without having to use any of our cash. So that's going to help us in FY27. And I think that we'll be better positioned than most schools in the state going into that fiscal year, which I think will be a very challenging budget year. This was a challenging budget year, but I think I'm even more concerned about FY27. Absent anything changing, like the legislative session giving us some more money or funding these increases. But I think the moral of the story, or the story that I've been telling my other schools, is that since 2020, we've had mandatory increase after mandatory increase, benefits going up, inflation. We had all of the ESSER funds. And so for a long time there, we were able to kind of absorb all those additional costs that were underfunded and not really feel the effects of them. And this is the year where we're going to feel the effects of them because those ESSER funds are gone and we have to absorb that. But Carrizozo was well positioned to do that. We just have to be prudent and make sure that we're keeping an eye on the budget going into next year. FY27, I think, is going to be challenges. Just throwing that out there. I know we're talking about FY26, but I want to make sure we're on the same page. And that's something that we're going to be watching for the next fiscal year. On this page, I have a pie chart that's kind of breaking out the expenditures by function code, and this is just for the operational fund. So 55% of our operational fund is being allocated to instruction, 26% being allocated to classroom. So that's about a total of 81% being allocated to the students or to the classrooms of our operational budget, 10% to administration, and then the rest are building and plant. The one thing I will say is we are anticipating projected carryover going into FY26 of about 1.8 million. So that's just an estimate. When the audit comes in, they're going to audit us and they're going to say this is what you actually finished the year at. So any PO that comes in from the time the budget was put together that wasn't included in the budget is just going to reduce our cash or vice versa. So it is an estimate. We try to be conservative when we project or estimate that ending cash. The audit will come in and tell us exactly what our ending cash was, and that's when we will present the board with what we call carryover bars. That typically happens in January, February-ish, but that's what we're projecting to finish this year with. Down below, we have some bar charts. This is showing the expenditures by function code, and this is for all funds. And so just kind of showing comparison current year to next fiscal year, you can see the increases in instruction, administration, and building and plant. I believe, Marie, I think you just said that the district is thinking of building a building, is that correct?
They're in the process of building now, and that also includes the cash reserves.
Okay.
Yeah.
Going into a little bit more detail, so this is drilling down even further than the function level. This is going to go to the object level. Again, this is just our operational fund. About 40, the pie chart says 46%, but I think it's actually 51% of our operational fund is being allocated to compensation and benefits. And then property being the other, and then contract services 19%.
Contract services would be Region 9.
Bar charts to kind of show all funds current year compared to the next fiscal year. And then here's just even more detail. So this is going to be our personnel cost. Included in the budget is approximately 32 FTEs, which is a decrease of 3 compared to 2025. And we kind of break out, you can see 17 teachers, 6 EAs, 1 librarian in the cost, and then the stipends are down below, and that's the total stipends.
That was an increase in 3?
The decrease in
or
three.
decrease?
Decrease of 3 FTE. And that could be also associated with us removing vacancies that maybe we determined we didn't use. So when we calculate and include in the budget any position, it's counted as a full FTE, whether there's a body in that position or not.
What three did we?
One question was,
Well, we have 3 less FTEs for this coming year than we currently have.
so we budgeted last year as part of the reason why we're kind of shape for that extra position and then 2 IAs. And the extra in the one position we never did fill. Part of it's because our numbers dropped. And when the numbers dropped, we like to kind of pump the brakes on that position, so it never filled. And then we didn't lose any of the teaching positions.
Yeah, you're losing the teacher.
And
You're losing the teacher.
we're replacing that
But
teacher,
you're
right?
right. Yes.
So
Right. So that would be a wash. It was
right,
just
that one's a wash.
the one we budgeted. for.
Last year.
Right.
we
I remember
budgeted-
that discussion and then the 2 IAs that,
Right.
okay.
And the 2 IAs we had open for a long time and
Right.
never could get filled. We have one filled now.
Yay!
Sitting in the room.
Yep.
And then part of what happened is we moved some to, well, we got one that moved to Ed Fellows. And so that
That's
looks
right.
like we don't have an IAFTE in there. So,
Thank you.
Going into non-personnel costs, here we have just kind of breakout of some items that we're able to kind of summarize. So other professional services of about 441,747, consisting of K-12, IT, food service, contract with the REC, other contract services. I'm not entirely sure, but I think typically when we put together this non-personnel, what we're looking at to kind of build these numbers is anything that we know that we're going to have in the next fiscal year, or we also look historically and within the past couple of years to kind of get an average of what we typically spend in these categories, and then use that for an estimate or a projection for FY26. Sometimes we might even increase it a little bit just because things always keep costing more. We have our ancillary services of 417,734, our auditing fees, legal fees, advertising, bus inspections, transportation, tax liability, tax collection costs, and then our utilities. Continuing with the non-personnel, we have some other items that we were able to summarize, so board training, employee travel, student travel. This is all funds, keep that in mind, and a lot of these items are a good example of where we look historically and what we've spent over maybe the last 2-3 years, determine an average and put that in the budget. And then at the bottom, we have our fixed assets. That's our reserves of 1.8 million. Construction services, our bond principal payments, our debt, our bond interest payments. And so altogether, about 3.6 billion of non-personnel expenditures being budgeted. I think the only other thing that I will say on this is none of this is set in stone, but this is just to get us a budget so that we can start July 1. And as the needs of the district evolve and change, we can change this however we need to. But this is what the proposed budget is to go into the next fiscal year, and we will reallocate budget as needed. Next, we have our operational fund balance. Fund balance is just an accounting nerdy way of saying cash. It's like our equity. And so you can see 21, 22, 23. I did another school that had a similar graph, and I had to double check it, triple check it, because it just looks so odd. But I think what you can see is exactly what I was talking about, which is where the ESSER funds were kind of used to build up this cash balance. And that's the result of this large increase, which has been very helpful, and it's definitely going to come in handy going into FY27. And then in the appendix, we just have our 910B5. This is the actual state provided document for our operational revenues. And so we include this so you can see it. This is a little bit different than prior years where they're kind of doing what I did historically I would do an Excel myself, just showing the dollar amounts for each line. It's kind of like, hopefully this continues to improve like this, but this is our 910B5, and then total SCG for next year is about 2.845 million. And then we have our salary schedules with the increased minimums for statutes, and then our school calendar. So again, I want to thank Marie for putting in all of this hard work on this. I think at the initial budget meeting, she's probably a lot like me and maybe just a little bit concerned given the budgets that we had already completed. It's been a very challenging year for a lot of schools. And so as we got further and further along with Carrizozo's budget, things look better and better. So I'm happy that we were able to get the budget balanced without having to use any of that cash. And so I open it up for questions, and I want to thank Superintendent Patterson and his staff, and I want to thank Marie. Everyone's been great to work with, and kind of echo what Pat Ives said earlier. You guys, are great, and clients like you are what makes this job worth it for us, and so we appreciate all of you.
I had a question on the salary schedule in regards to the 4% raises for teachers, but if a teacher went from a level 2 to a level 3, was that absorbed in that step up, or did they also go down a step, or how did that affect them?
The way the statute is they just, no matter what, they have to get at least 4% more next year than what they got this year. In your example, if they went from a level 2 to a level 3, chances are they're getting far more than that 4%. But I guess the main thing of your question is they're not going to level 3 and getting 4% on top of that.
That is my question.
Yeah. That step. Yeah.
So that step would be.
Their step would absorb the 4%?
Right.
Yeah.
Is that fair? Because they were going to get the step anyway.
Yeah, it's the way the statute was written. I mean, it's whatever gets them to the 4%. So
whether it's the
right,
or I get my master's and that moves me over.
If they say they were a level 1 teacher, but they're level 1, they were making less than 55. Moving them to the 55, which now is the minimum.
You gave them that 4%, that becomes the new step. So any teacher that's on that step has to get that same amount.
Right.
So like if it was, if someone was to advance and someone was already, a year behind, they would have to go to that same salary amount because that step would have to be kind of just set for all employees that go to that step.
Fair enough. Any questions for Mr. Runyon or Marie?
Thank you guys for your hard work.
Yes, thank you.
I do want to thank them both because I spent a lot of time on the phone Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Not too much Sunday.
No, not
too much Sunday. Friday, Saturday, and they've been working hard on our budgets to try to figure it out. So I appreciate their hard work. And they've Kathy's here quite a bit back there with all the title funds and the different things. And so I appreciate both Ms. Brillis with everything on that. So it's definitely been a team effort getting here. So.
Well, on behalf of the board, thank everybody, because I'm sure it wasn't an easy task to put this together. So, and without having to use cash reserves, I'm still haven't figured that one out yet. So.
Yeah. That was a surprise to me. Even I'm like, you have to have something wrong. Like, I'm not something wrong.
And I still might have something wrong. Don't shoot the messenger if I come back and say, wait a minute.
Well, we have till June 5th to find it if it is missing, huh?
Right.
It's when this has to be submitted?
And we may go ahead and submit it a little sooner, get the process. That way, if there's anything that needs to be adjusted, we've got time
to get it adjusted.
Get it adjusted.
Yeah, after this is done, our focus is really going to move to closing up the fiscal year setting up the next, I mean, it's a never ending thing for business managers, over the summer, he's kind of prepping and,
Right.
so once this is done, we can move our focus on making sure our bars are completed, that we get all the revenues that, we need to get for our federal funds, and then start really buttoning down the end of the fiscal year to prepare for the audit, which is kind of segueing into the action item of the blanket bar, but, you know, I could speak on that too when we get to that.
Right. All right, any other questions for you? Well, again, thank you, everyone.
Thank you all.
Appreciate it. So let's move to action items. Item 8A, approval of the 26 proposed budget pending PED's final approval.
Mr. President, can we add 4 words to that with possible budget changes if PED makes some changes? So
Wouldn't that be
Everything
covered
you
under
said.
the pending?
Huh?
Wouldn't that be covered under pending PED approval or not?
It's just, if they make final changes in the SEG or whatever.
I would be cautious about adding something onto the agenda that wasn't on the agenda that we approved.
Okay.
That would be a violation of the Open Meetings Act. So.
I think what you have is fine. The board just needs to know that, as we submit the budget to the state, they may have pushback and say, oh, you need to take $10 out of here and put it here.
Right.
So there's a lot of back and forth like that. But for the most part, the substance of the budget's gonna stay the same. And I think as long as everyone understands that, I don't necessarily think you need to change the wording, but just know that that's part of the process.
Like I said, I'd be hesitant to change the wording in the motion because it's not what was on the agenda. So, but I think we're covered when it says pending PED final approval. So if there's some negotiations with PED we have to do, then we have to do it. So.
Move to approve FY 26 budget pending PED approval.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the FY 26 budget pending PED's final approval. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Item 8D, discussion approval of the food service agreement, which was in our packet. That was ridiculous. That was,
and we had to go back out to bid because the check was missed on the original one. That's why we had
do
to
this.
do this. And
Right.
so it is all done right now, and we had 2 very quality companies bid on it and make good presentations. And this was the company that came down and won, which is the current company that we have. So
Any questions on that?
So we're good with the one that we have, or?
yes, sir. Especially deal with the person.
I'll entertain a motion.
I move, let's see where we're at, to approve of the food service agreement with K-12 by Elor.
Second.
Then moved and seconded to approve the food service agreement with K-12. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Discussion approval of the revised school year 25-26. You want to explain a couple of revisions and then we can.
Yes. So we had to go to a revised because PED threw us a curveball with the lawsuit about the total instructional hours, which was 7.5. Our calendar that we originally approved was 7.52, which equaled a little bit more, right at a day and a half of time when you take that 5 minutes off our calendar. So that's what made us do this. The calendar that was in your book, we caught 2 things when we put it into the head calculator that they have to put it into for. One was we had Labor Day on the wrong day. We had it on September 8th instead of September 1st. And so this calendar fixes that. The other thing that it does is February 5th, we were scheduled to get out of school at 1:45. Doesn't count as a full day. We need to get to 2:05, so it fixes that. And we were able to, I forget what day we changed in this calendar from the last one, but we were able to pick up the time we needed to and still
maintain our Thanksgiving off, still maintain our start and end dates.
We added the Friday after the election,
Oh, right.
we didn't have that, and then the Friday after we come back.
So there were 2 times that the kids were only in school 3 days for the week. One was the election week. So that Friday we'll come to school, and then, the week we come back in January, we have an in-service day on that Monday. But the kids were only here 3 days, so we'll let them come on Friday. So that allowed us to keep our calendar pretty much similar to what we had, just with those 2 changes. What it also does do is it creates a situation where next year, if we have any delays or cancellations, we're either going remote, or we're, if we cancel school on Tuesday because of snow, we may be in school on Friday to make it up. So it's not filling in a bunch of extra time.
No snow days.
They're remote days.
Right.
We have up to 30 hours.
It's
4 days. Isn't it? We have up to 4 days that we can go
4 days
remote.
that we could go remote.
To go remote. So we used 2 this year, back-to-back days. So, right.
Alrighty.
It's the pleasure.
I move to approve the school calendar for the school year 25-26 revised.
Second.
And moving second to approve the 25-26 school year calendar as revised. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed. Motion carries. Idea B application. It was also in the paper.
So it's actually in the packet, so it's in printouts. He pretty much gave them some of the numbers in his.
Right.
It's less money, most of it goes to salary benefits, a little bit to supplies, so.
Any questions on the idea B? I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve idea B application FY 245, school year 25-26.
Second, sorry. I was looking at the, there was a typo.
Yeah, that's it. Right, Manto, so it's supposed to be on there, right?
The statement.
Sounded good.
I was trying to read it too.
Motion and second to approve the idea B application for school year 25-26. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. Approval of the IDB assurance statement.
I did have it on here, so. The assurance statement is basically, telling them that our board policies and procedures governing special education are in alignment with the state, and federal guidelines, and that we will do everything in effect of these policies and procedures for our students. This further assures that throughout the period of the grant award, the district will comply with the requirement of Ideal B, Subpart C, local education agency eligibility. So,
There you go, we're assuring that.
I move to approve the idea B assurance statement for school year 25-26.
Second.
Then moving second to approve the IDB assurance statement for school year 25-26. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. 8H, excuse me, discussion approval of the temporary delegation of authority for bar approval through June 30th to be presented at the following board meeting. So historically, as we get close to the end of the fiscal year, we've allowed the business manager, with oversight obviously from Mr. Patterson, to move money as quick as we can to zero out what we need to zero out and all that good stuff. So we're not turning back funds or any of that. So we need a board motion in order to do that.
I move to approve of the approval of temporary delegation of authority for bar approval through June 30th to be presented at the following board meeting.
So that means in July.
In
we'll
July,
present
so
everything that-
Any last minute bars will be presented to the board in July.
Right.
Okay. Any further discussion?
No.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Before we go into executive, thank you, Mr. Runyon, for participating. Appreciate it.
Thank you all. You have a good night.
You too.
Two.
Thank you.
So executive session, we need a motion to go into executive session. Roll call vote.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to go into executive session. Roll call vote. Mr. Cerna.
Aye.
Mr. Barella.
Aye.
Ms. Samora.
Aye.
And I vote in the affirmative as well. So executive session at 7:38.
So just, oh, I'm
Go
sorry.
ahead.
Just one thing, I'll be sending tomorrow, I'll be sending a form via via Adobe that each one of you needs to sign that was here tonight for the submission to the state for the budget. It's called a 901B,
So it'll be like DocuSign or,
yeah, DocuSign.
okay.
And then it'll go to each one of you, and I just need it to upload it to the PED.
Okay.
But it won't go to Kelly, because she wasn't here, so